All right, everybody, welcome in and welcome back. Season 4, episode 31, aka our 142nd show. Andy, this is going to be the last full soccer podcast that we have until the World Cup. So enjoy it, ladies and gentlemen. We had the last few weeks of leagues around Europe. We actually had Women's Champions League final over the weekend, which I am very excited to talk about. And yeah, a lot of good things happened, a lot of crazy things happened, and we'll get to all that here in the next few minutes.
Yeah, it was quite a end of the season kind of shout out, I think. So more so than other leagues or other seasons where everything's kind of done and dusted for the most part. This one, lots of jeopardy all across the board. We had some people or some clubs in different leagues find themselves way on the outs, whereas others are just able to squeak by. So we'll go in our usual cadence, talk about our teams because we do have some record breakers to talk about, Paul.
Yeah, we certainly do, at least on your side. So bad news for Barcelona, though, Andy, at least from the immediate match standpoint. Barcelona, in their last league game of the season, went away to Valencia. Valencia was actually playing for European football. I think they were playing for the Conference League to get in there. They needed some help, but they absolutely needed to win against Barcelona. So they played hard, harder than Barcelona, at least for the full 90 minutes. Barcelona actually ended up going up 1-0 behind a Lewandowski goal. So Lewandowski, in his last ever game for Barcelona, scored, which was super cool to see. And then like 3 minutes later, Barcelona gave up a goal, and then another goal, and then another goal. So Barcelona ended up losing 3-1 to Valencia, which was annoying to see. I wanted to end the season on a good note, but it was very much B team. Hansi Flick was playing people who were not at as much of a risk of getting injured for World Cup kind of purposes. Because in between last game and this game, Fermin actually ended up getting a small fracture in his foot, and he is out for like 6 to 8 weeks, and he's going to miss the entire World Cup, which is super sad to see for him. And I saw a lot of backlash online in regards to Hansi Flick because he played Fermin in the last home game of the season, but it's not like he was carrying something and Hansi's like, you have to play, because he didn't have to play him. I'm guessing Fermin wanted to play and Hansi wanted to play him, and so they agreed to play him.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where stuff happens and it's really sad to see, but that's the reality of the situation, and it is unfortunate for him for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think on that element too, like you're saying, like it's kind of customary that on your last home game of the season in front of your fans after you've won the cup or won the league, it's nice to play in front of your home fans and kind of get those accolades there. So I think that's a little harsh on Hansi Flick for resting that, because again, if it wasn't known about, or if it wasn't one he was necessarily carrying, and
right,
made that known, how's Hansi supposed to know? He's just going to pick the team that he wants to pick, his strongest team to go and get the job done.
Yeah, exactly. So a little disappointing there, but Barcelona obviously still league champions, which was great to see. And Andy, we actually had huge news come out today. The Barcelona season was over for 3 days total. And Deco, who is kind of the head of scouting and getting players in and out of Barca, he's already made a huge signing. So, and I know that you know this because you sent me the link initially, and then I had to do a deep dive into it. So Anthony Gordon, the left winger for Newcastle, is now a Barcelona player to the tune of 80 million euros. So I know you're not happy because we know what the writing on the wall means for that. Let me talk about this signing first, then we will talk about the repercussions and what it means for other players.
Go for it.
So I think it caught a lot of people off guard, and it happened very quickly. And just a couple of days ago, it was rumored that Anthony Gordon was going to go to Bayern Munich. And it sounded like they had agreed on personal terms, and Barcelona swooped in and just pulled the rug out from under Bayern. And I think Barcelona made a very attractive offer. And in doing it so quickly, then Barcelona and Bayern Munich don't get into a bidding war, which I think is huge because Barcelona now back into the full 1-to-1 rule, made a lot of money this season, which is great, but we don't have as much cash as some other clubs. So if we can avoid getting into bidding wars, that's huge. But in my analysis of Anthony Gordon, Hansi Flick, the team, and what we're looking for, I think this is actually a really good signing. And I think the reason it's a really good signing is because of what Anthony Gordon brings to the table when it comes to pressing. Hansi Flick values players that sprint, that pressure the ball, and create turnovers that lead to goals. He is not as worried about, who's the best technical player, who's going to score the most goals, who's going to be a big splash, none of that stuff. He's very much more somebody who values effort and hustle and creates turnovers. That's kind of how Barcelona wins games, turns games on their head. So from that standpoint, I think it was a great signing. And it'll be interesting because he plays typically left winger. He can play some striker, but everything that I've heard is he is not the Lewandowski replacement. He is additional fortification at that left winger spot. And I think the reason why is because of the extra positives he brings over the player who was in that position. So not Rafinha, but we're going to talk about Rashford now. Because there were rumors that like second leg Atletico Madrid game in the Champions League was kind of Rashford's final test and he didn't pass it. But then Rashford had a really good couple of games, including against Real Madrid in El Clasico, where he kind of made up for it. So might be something there. I don't know. But here's my analysis. I think Rashford is a talented player. Rashford's not the hardest working player, which I think you can attest to this, Andy. And, and I'm not going to call him lazy, but there were multiple times this season where I watched him walking when the rest of the team was running. There were definitely other cases where he was sprinting back, but it wasn't something that was consistent. Hansi Flick values consistent effort. And, I don't know this for a fact, but that's my guess as to why Hansi gave Deco the okay. They meet very closely to talk about players and who the manager wants, who Deco wants, working together to get the players that they want. So this was not a one-man decision. This was definitely a team decision.
Yeah.
So that is why I think Anthony Gordon was signed and why I think Rashford is going to end up going back to Manchester United personally.
Yeah. All that makes sense of like what Anthony Gordon brings in terms of like his defensive attributes and how hard he's willing to work, and just kind of seeing how he's done in like Eddie Howe's system at Newcastle. All that makes sense. I'm still just surprised given that I would still think a cut rate price for Rashford is still a great find and better than paying the 80 million euro for Anthony Gordon as a club. Personally, just from like thinking in terms of money being spent on that. I think people have said and talked about Rashford's work ethic. When he was like coming through at United, oftentimes people were praising his work ethic as when he was younger. And I think maybe something happened as he got older, maybe as he got more injuries where he stopped doing that a little bit.
Sure.
And maybe that's kind of the case of what's happening. I think what it does is just it puts now, the reason I don't like this is that obviously it's going to put Rashford back in United's camp.
Yep.
And it's going to make it difficult now for, I think it's just going to make it difficult for Carrick in general. Because he was announced as the permanent manager, officially announced sometime before the Brighton game, which we'll get to. But no, that's something he's going to have to deal with because technically now there's a bit of a door for him to come back
Mm-hmm.
And I think that ship really has sailed. He should not come back to the club. He needs to he needs to go. He needs to go to a different suitor. So this doesn't give him that easy out. And now this makes it just makes everything a little bit more complicated. So that's
Sure.
why I'm like, why would you do that, Barca? I get it why tactically,
Yes.
but I think from a monetary standpoint, and maybe it's his wage, maybe it was his wages. Maybe honestly it's his wages that he has at
Yeah.
United that's kind of like making them balk and be like, Anthony Gordon's still being paid less. If I up Anthony Gordon's personal terms even a little bit, that might still be less than what you're paying Rashford, or having
Yeah.
to augment with Rashford. That could be another thing.
Yeah, and I think too, Barcelona and Deco probably understood Manchester United don't want him back. And I think Manchester United knew Barcelona were interested in him. And because of that, I think Manchester United were going to kind of up the fee a little bit, try to get as much out of Barcelona as possible, which they have every right to do. I think if we're talking finances, though, too, I think we have to look at player age and injuries. So Anthony Gordon's 25, Marcus Rashford's 28. And I think Hansi Flick is looking at how long term would Rashford be a fit. Looking at contracts, looking at how many years Rashford would be here for. Rashford also had injury concerns and he had droughts this past season for Barcelona. So I think you've got to consider all of that. And again, I think Hansi Flick more than anything values effort and hustle over anything else because he knows players can score. And when you get turnovers and you get players in one-on-ones with the keeper, 2-on-1s, 1-on-2s, whatever it might be, in scoring opportunities, players are going to score at this level. So I think he just values that so highly that, and again, I'm not calling Rashford lazy. I think Rashford was great for Barcelona this year. But if Rashford's here, I think Anthony Gordon is here on a consistency level for effort. So again, a bit of a shock. I trust Hansi implicitly. Hansi, since arriving to Barcelona, has had fantastic signings, has made great decisions from personnel standpoint over the course of a season. Maybe I've disagreed with personnel decisions here and there in the heat of the moment, substitutions during a game, lineups for a game. But if we look at building a team as a whole, Hansi Flick's been incredible with Barcelona and what he's gotten out of these players. I don't want to hear, and I know Barcelona fans are complaining and whining and throwing a fit, and why did we sign Anthony Gordon, blah, 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 blah. Not a single person can doubt Hansi Flick on personnel because he hasn't given us any reason to doubt him. Everybody has been great who's stepped out on the field for Barcelona. So, it's really interesting the speed of it and how fast it happened and how out of the blue it happened. But again, I trust Deco, I trust Laporta, and I trust Hansi Flick.
Yeah. Well, and that's the good business, right? Like you want to get something in for Hansi. Maybe like it's probably a two-way street, like giving something to Hansi to say like, hey, we're ready to work as soon as the World Cup ends. You've got Anthony Gordon and you know where Anthony Gordon's going to be. Like you're not going to have this protracted thing of like, am I going to get a left winger? Am I not going to get a left winger?
Yep.
Thing there. So it's even more of like, I think a vote of confidence from the board of Barcelona, the club of Barcelona, saying, nope, we believe in you, Hansi. Like we're going to get you what you need to start for next season. So
absolutely. Yeah. And again, I mentioned this last year with depth in the signing of Rashford. Like you need depth in this world of soccer now with how many games are played. We're going to have a summer where players are not going to rest. They're going to get maybe a couple of weeks after the World Cup ends because the World Cup basically starts right after the season ends. And these players are going right from club soccer to international soccer to their countries. So you need depth, and Rafinha had injuries this year. He was not the same player he was a season ago. So, if there are injury concerns, you need to have somebody in there who can come in and consistently play. And somebody else made a good point about this, that Lewandowski and Ferran Torres were both had slumps this year. So you need somebody who can also go in there and play the striker position, which Anthony Gordon has done. In the case that whoever Barcelona ends up signing as a striker, it goes through a slump, gets injured. Like you need bodies. So, And again, who knows? Only after a season is done will we be able to say, oh, was Anthony Gordon the right signing? Time will tell. Would have been better to keep Rashford instead. Time will tell. And I don't see a world where Rashford stays now. You know, it'll, I don't know. We'll see. We will see. But if he doesn't stay, I am very thankful for everything that he provided to this club. I think he brought on a great attitude. Loved seeing his smile day in and day out, practice games, and provided some great moments. I mean, that free kick in El Clasico will go down in history. I mean, it's the first free kick goal in the last 14 years in El Clasico. So,
yeah,
just great, and great to see him get 2 trophies this year, in a league title that he hasn't had in years. So, wait, has he won? When was the last time United won a league title? I actually don't remember.
2013.
Rashford wasn't there yet, was he? No, it couldn't have. Yeah. So
no, first come onto the scene until 2016, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah, so great to see him get a league title as well with Barcelona. So again, we got the money now, Andy. We're going to be making moves. So, and I've heard next up is fighting for Harry Kane, Julian Alvarez, trying to get somebody in for that striker position. So,
man, if you could get Harry Kane, that would be something else. Absolutely something else.
Yeah. If we get Harry Kane, everybody's going to have to watch out. And I think we still need a defense because we don't have a defense. But if we get Harry Kane, our offense is going to be unreal.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's just incredible. I know, I'm sure some people may have a thought. I don't know who, and I don't know what the popular thought is around Harry Kane, but you can't deny what he's doing. You cannot deny what he's doing in the Bundesliga. Whatever you think of the league, you can't deny what he's doing in there. He's the best striker in the world, I think, hands down. I don't think there's any qualms about that.
Currently, absolutely not. I would agree.
Yeah, even over, especially this year, over Erling Haaland. I don't even know if Arsenal even really had a striker, to be honest, of any of the sort. But if he's trying to compare to the Premier League there, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that can happen. Who knows? We might even. No, we're not. Who am I kidding? We got to focus on. Well, there's the thought that we might be going for strikers because we need someone to help share the load with Benjamin Šeško, who did very well this year for him coming in as a young kid, but having an experienced striker next to him would be even better. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But
hey,
we got to get to
Rashford's still on the wage book, so
yeah, he's got to but he really does. To me, I think mentally he's gone. Mentally, because when he got called up by England, he thanked everybody else besides United. So, which, to be fair, he hasn't really played for United, and so when he played for or when he was with United, he wasn't in the England squad. Honestly. So, so I get that. But yeah, he's gonna. I think he's just gonna have. He needs to go. He just needs to go. Yep. He likes greener pastures. Something mentally with him in Manchester is not right. So, and he's not at the spot, I think, where he can come back and be like, Michael Carrick, I'm sorry, I'll give everything, because I think that ship has sailed. It's kind of like a girlfriend or whatever. Once you break up, you don't go back. You just you keep going forward.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Speaking of moving forward, Andy, let's talk records.
Records, yes. So. Big thing for United. Big thing, I honestly, for Bruno, and I think his status just as a player in world soccer came from this past match where we beat Brighton 3-0, which in the Premier League side of things, it's always great to beat Brighton because Brighton is in general a solid team, and being able to beat them at the Amex, which is Brighton's home stadium, is really, really great. And Bruno was able to break the assist record for the first goal from a cross to, surprisingly, Patrick Dorgu, who started his first match since He came off with an injury. I want to say sometime. I think it was after the. It wasn't after the Arsenal match. I want to say it was a couple after, or like maybe like Carrick's third game in charge. So getting up on the header, that breaks the record. So he's at 21 assists for the season. I also saw a stat that kind of amazed me. Is a stat that says that Bruno Fernandes is 1 day quicker at getting to 100 goals and 100 assists. 1 day quicker than Lionel Messi, and like I want to say like maybe a week earlier than Cristiano Ronaldo. And to me, they just puts things into perspective with how good Bruno Fernandes has been.
Mm-hmm.
I know you feel a certain type of way about Bruno, and I think like that's definitely he definitely gives off sometimes a feeling of you love him on your team.
Yeah.
If he's on someone else's team, absolutely like drives you crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gabi is the same way for Barcelona.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like if he played for anybody else, I would absolutely despise him, but I love him more than most players on our team because of who he is. So every team needs at least one of those players.
Yeah, he definitely does. And like there's, I think now what I've noticed happening is people are now putting him, they want to cement like what his legacy is. I want to make sure that with Bruno, people are saying he is in the conversation for an all-time great at United. He is not he is not the all-time great at United. There are many, many, many more, but he definitely now is cemented in that I would say that pantheon of United legends.
Yeah. No. And Cristiano Ronaldo is the greatest ever United player, right?
No.
I'm totally just poking the bear.
No, sorry. I didn't even interpret it as like a dig or a joke. I think it was there. Yeah, that was because it's legitimate. I think one could say that. But I think there's so many more in our history that are bigger.
Yeah.
Bobby Charlton. I think that's kind of a no-brainer for me. But any case, in terms of just like where he's at in his career, in like his 30s, and playing a position that's kind of going out of favor, in that having a number 10 that is like the most technical on the ball and like is, a less risk averse 10. The way that Bruno Fernandes plays his risk and reward style, I think is something that's really, really strikes to, I think, the core of the heart of what United is, and that United does go for it. United wants to be dominant, but United wants to entertain at the same time. They want to win, but they want to do it entertainingly. Like they'd much rather, kind of come up with goals that are from brilliance than, that are like copy paste, like system goals kind of thing. So not to dig out teams that might be quote unquote given that label, but I think just in general, what I'm trying to say is he really, like, we are witnessing one of soccer's greats doing it at the highest level and surpassing people at the highest level, like Kevin De Bruyne and Salah. I think of times like when kids are like yelling names out, like who they want to be, or like even when I'm like playing soccer, or pickup soccer, people are like, oh, a De Bruyne, or like, oh, a Kane. I think now from here on, I think there would be more of a case for saying a Bruno, because of what he does and how he plays, how hard he plays and what he does. And so I'm just glad he was able to get that accolade. So now that cements, like, whatever happens from here on out, he has that record of most Premier League assists. It could get broken next season or whatever, but
in one season.
Others have tied it. Like even think Kevin De Bruyne only tied it with Thierry Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Thierry Henry that he had to go up against too. And same with Salah. They all tied it, but they couldn't surpass it. And so this one he was able to break and move that marker one more further. So that's a huge thing. So I'm very, just very, very excited, very, very pleased for him to have that, given what this time at United has been and how turbulent it has been. He's been the one that would fit into any other world renowned squad or any squad that's won the Champions League. He'd absolutely fit into all that. So yeah, I could go on and on about Bruno, but we have a podcast to get to for the rest of it. But congrats to Bruno. Congrats to United after a crazy, crazy season where it was looking like we could look like Tottenham again. And thankfully, under Carrick, we've steadied the ship. He's steadied the ship, and he's gotten the job that he's definitely deserved. So I think it's a great thing.
United definitely deserve a round of applause after a pretty wild season, all things considered.
Did you know, Paul, that they've gotten more points since Carrick's appointment, basically in January? He's gotten more points than Arsenal have in that time frame. He's gotten more points than City has. Whether that's overachieving, you can say all these things, but it's a results business. You got to get the results. And so he's gotten the results. So it'll be interesting to see what can carry over. I'm very, very intrigued to see what happens there.
Yeah, definitely.
For moving forward. But we'll keep moving forward with the vibe check. Paul, why don't you break this down for the Bundesliga? Because this was freaking me out on Google because they were telling me that a relegation team that wasn't even in the Bundesliga had won the Bundesliga. So please help me out here.
Yeah, this was crazy. Thanks, Google. Kids, don't believe everything you read on the internet. It's not always true. So I think last week we actually knew the final results of the league, but just to review them, since we'll do this for all the leagues here. Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, RB Leipzig, Stuttgart, they all earn Champions League spots next year. A costly draw from Hoffenheim, which we talked about last week, ruined their chances of a Champions League berth. So they and Leverkusen are in the Europa League, and then Freiburg is in the Conference League. So we mentioned this last week. An interesting part of the Bundesliga is the bottom two teams are automatically relegated, and then the third to last team enters a playoff with another team from the second division. So that team was Paderborn. They actually play a 2-leg tie with Wolfsburg. With the first leg at Wolfsburg, it was a 0-0 draw. Nothing super exciting going on. The second leg was everything that you wanted and more, Andy. So in the second minute, Wolfsburg scores. So they're going crazy. And then 11 minutes later, in the 13th minute, Joachim Meile gets it was hard to tell if it was a second yellow or a straight red. Either case, he's gone from the game. 13th minute. So Wolfsburg up 1-0, but down to 2 players. Paderborn scores in the 37th minute to tie it up 1-1. And after that, it was all Paderborn. And Paderborn, I think, hit the post 4 or 5 times in the course of this game. Can't get anything done in regular time. And then in the 99th minute, so going into extra time, Paderborn scores again and end up winning the game 2-1 to earn promotion. Crazy. And I think Wolfsburg had a streak of 20-something straight years in the Bundesliga that has now been snapped. And interestingly enough, Andy, you will like this or not like this, I guess, piece of information. I'm not sure. But Christian Eriksen is actually on Wolfsburg currently. Mm-hmm. So his side gets relegated in a very exciting, thrilling playoff battle. And so Paderborn up, Wolfsburg down.
Yeah. Wolves. I feel for any long time org that stayed in the Bundesliga or stayed in any league, just because the history that they've had within there.
Yep.
Because there have been some really good Wolfsburg sides. I remember Wolfsburg beating us in, I think it was either the Champions League or the Europa League, and they made us look silly, like they were that good. But we were also pretty silly too. So I guess take with that what you mean or what you will. But this is the great thing about sports, especially in soccer, is every season you've got to come and you've got to deliver for the results. Yeah, history can't save you. Nothing can save you besides what you do this year. And this is the case in point of it. So congrats to Paderborn. Love this kind of format. This is a crazy little format, but honestly, I think a lot of fun.
Yeah, for
I'd
sure.
be curious to have to read more about how that goes. If it's like a playoff, if there's like teams that play off to get into this playoff or something.
Yeah.
I'm very curious on how this kind of goes down. But yeah, what a chaotic end to a Bundesliga season. Paul, let's go into Spain. Moving right along.
Sure. So just kind of going over the teams, we know Barcelona won the league. Real Madrid, Villarreal, Atletico Madrid, and Real Betis are all in the Champions League. So La Liga gets 5 at-large bids. Celta de Vigo, Real Sociedad, they are in the Europa League, and then Getafe are in the Conference League. So, talking about that as well as the bottom battle. So Getafe gets a huge win. Rayo Vallecano also won, but Getafe beat them out by 1 point to make that Conference League kind of getting that secure for them. But Andy, moving on to the bottom battle. So going into the last week, there were 3, 6, 8 teams technically that still could have been relegated. And almost all of them lost. So
wow.
Sevilla and Alaves both lost. Elche got a draw, which saved them from being relegated. Levante and Osasuna, they stay up, Andy, but they lose. Osasuna, Andy, lost at least their last 5 games in a row to end the season, but still somehow stayed up. Mallorca, unfortunately, they win in their last league game, but they end up being relegated.
No.
So, and I am guessing it was a head-to-head thing because Levante was technically tied on points and had a worse goal differential, but I think La Liga does a head-to-head factor as well for these points. So, interesting to see there. And then Girona, in their last game of the season, they ended up drawing. If they would have won, they would have been safe and not relegated. So lots of parity on the last day. Very exciting with all of these teams because so many teams could have stayed up and so many teams could have gotten relegated as well, depending on how the last day went. So a lot of parity there and very fun for somebody who does not have to worry about being relegated.
To see what happens there.
Yep.
Man, I would, as a fan of a team that won its final game and everyone seemingly above them lost theirs, that's a toughie. That's a toughie to deal with, man. So
yeah, and I feel bad for Murici as well. He's a striker for Mallorca. He actually had the second highest goal scorer total in La Liga this year, and to have that and your team still gets relegated that's a tough spot. It's a tough spot to be in.
Well, hopefully it means for him some team is going to notice that and take a gamble on him. I think whoever's got the top flight, because if he's going down to play top flight football, there'll be people looking at him, seeing if they fit with their team.
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yep.
Heading over to Italy, Paul. Yeah, this was wild. Because we had kind of teased that this might happen, given what the battle for the Champions League was going to look like. And unfortunately, it did happen. We'll start with Juve. Juve went up 2 goals early, or a goal in the first half, another goal like pretty close after a halftime break. They're at 2-0 against their derby in Torino. So looking pretty. I want to say 56 minute rolls around, and that is where things start going wrong for Juventus. 59th, Cesare Casadei scored, and then Che Adams in the 83rd minute. Che Adams used to play in the Premier League. I think it was Brentford he might have been at. I can't remember. But he gets a goal in the 83rd minute to tie it. And what that means is that Juve actually end up missing out on the Champions League because Roma won their final match to put pressure on Juve. So Juve dropping points meant Roma got to jump into third, and Milan, AC Milan, lose to Cagliari 2-1. That completely drops them out of the Champions League spot. So what this looks like now, with Como beating Cremonese,
with a really nice goal from El Shaarawy. That thing was all over my feed, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's big for him, too, because he's been had been in the Roma squad, kind of out, but had been a long-time servant, I think, of the club. So having him back is pretty nice to have him do that. And I think I don't know if he's retiring or not, but he's later on in his career, so that's nice to have that for his club there. What this looks like then again is Inter, who won Serie A, followed by Napoli, then Roma and Como all get Champions League spots. Milan and Juve are entered the Europa League, with Atalanta securing their spot in the Conference League. Como absolutely dominated Cremonese, and so they got bounced, and that firmly put Cremonese in the relegation zone, along with Verona and Pisa, and that rounds out what happened in Italy. So a little bit of jostling on the day for the Europa League European spots. So that's where we find ourselves in Italy. Paul, do you want to take the Premier League?
I don't think you want to take it.
No, but I will if you'd like me to.
No, I'll do it. I have no problem doing it.
Cool.
Campeones, ole, ole, ole. Yes, listeners. Much to Andy's chagrin, as he finishes off his definitely water, maybe adult beverage, we don't really know. Arsenal end up winning the league. They don't bottle it because City bottled it with a draw against Bournemouth in their game in hand, and then losing on the final match day as well. And Arsenal went back-to-back wins in their last two games. So Arsenal are league champions for the first time in 20 plus years, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, congrats to Arsenal, but tough day for United fans for sure. Really great day for Arsenal, and unfortunately, Ty in his rain comment is going to live down in not in infamy anymore. It is now going to be famous because Arsenal overcame the rain all season and somehow, some way, found a way to win the league.
Yeah, and I guess all the fans that were asking for Pep, pleading for Pep to lose just so Arsenal could have something. But no, fair credit to Arsenal. They were the strongest team out the gate in the beginning of the season. Lots of people talking about, how they play their football to get the victories. But again, whatever is said and done, at the end of the day, they were able to come out with the wins that were needed. So they held it. They rode on. Happy for my Arsenal friends from Michigan State. I'm happy for Declan Rice too, because I think Declan Rice is just a good human being, and a good human being for kids to look up to as a person. So I'm happy for that. And yeah, credit where credit's due. Arsenal won the league. Thank you for making sure that Pep Guardiola can't claim the best manager in the Premier League, given how many Premier Leagues he's won in his time frame. So that, I guess, basically what happens is, because I think Arsenal win, like, it's not an equal, I guess, ratio of how many Premier Leagues they've won in their time. So I think something like Ferguson won 13 and 20, but Pep won 6 and 10. So technically, if you double that for Pep, Pep can't equal that. I guess that's how the math works. Whatever. So we'll take that. So then neither City or Liverpool get the titles. So I guess if it's got to be Arsenal out of those, and it can't be United, we'll take it. So, but anyway, congratulations, Arsenal. You won it.
Yeah. Speaking of Pep, yeah, Pep has actually decided to step down from Manchester City. So, going to be interesting to see where Pep goes. Does he manage again? Does he ride off into the sunset and just retire and enjoy his life? And yeah, we'll just kind of see where that takes him. So,
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think he's going to? Yeah. Do you think he's going to ride off to the sunset, knowing him
I think.
personally? As I ask this, know that you know him personally.
Oh yeah, I absolutely know him personally. I got him on speed dial. He said I could share
Mhm.
this on our wonderful, huge international podcast here. No, I honestly think he's going to find a national team to manage. I think he is somebody who has set out to kind of conquer as much of football as possible as a manager. Doing that in La Liga and across Europe. So La Liga with Barcelona, the Bundesliga with Bayern, and then the Premier League with City. I think he has been extremely successful everywhere he has gone, but I don't think he's going to be satisfied. I think he's always looking for a new challenge and never stays in one place for a significantly long time. So I think he's going to try to find an international team to manage personally. But if not that, I think he'll retire. I don't think he wants to do club football anymore. But again, I could be very wrong. That's just
Yeah.
kind of that. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you
I
think?
wonder. Yeah. I don't think he's gone from football. I think he's going to come back into. I think he'll come back into management. I mean, I'd love it for him if he went to Italy, only because I think wherever he has gone, he's raised the caliber of the game.
100%.
However, his style, I don't necessarily, if I'm being a purist or philosophical, I don't necessarily agree with. However, what he will do for Italian football, I think would be great and bring it back to the level it once was at. So
Yeah.
if that means more Italians and Italy qualifying for the World Cup, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Um,
Just imagine he
so
goes, manages the Italian national team and turns the Italian national team around. That would be
if he
wild.
if he did that, oh my god, yeah, I might take back a lot of things I said.
Yeah,
If
I'm
he
sure
gets them
you
to win a
would.
World Cup, then yeah, I'll admit it. I'll admit it. This
Yep.
is what Italy did back in the World Cup,
Yep.
man.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, so yeah, so continue.
Yeah. So what that means, Arsenal, City, United, Aston Villa, and Liverpool are all in the Champions League. Bournemouth and Sunderland are in the Europa League, and then Brighton is in the Conference League. So looking at the bottom of the table there, Andy, I think the biggest thing that stands out is Spurs get a win. Spurs stay up. I think there were a lot of people rooting for Spurs to go down just to see a huge club go down, see some chaos. But West Ham, who also are a bigger club in their own right, they get a win on the last match day, but they end up getting relegated because Spurs also got a win. So
Mm.
West Ham down, Spurs up.
Yep, yep. This just wild how close it got there, and I think it really looked like it for a time. But I think the appointment that they made to get De Zerbi back in, I think steadied the ship enough, or at least got
Mm-hmm.
someone that like felt good about, as opposed to bless Igor Tudor for coming into the really really bad spot, but he just really was not the right person for this job at that time. Unfortunately, but De Zerbi's gotten it. Tottenham are still in a bad spot because again
Mm-hmm.
they were 14th and now they were what 16th
17th.
17th.
Yep, one above.
What I've learned is that the Premier League does share its money as it goes down, but it's based on your seeding. So you get the least amount of money if you are in 17th. You get the most amount of money if you're in like the champions or the champions. So 2 years of that really sucks. Obviously, they have the Champions League to offset that, but Tottenham really have to figure this out. And I don't know when they're going to figure this out because they still have a team capable of going down, down, down. And I'm sure there's players in there that do not want to deal with this project and would rather look elsewhere. So
Yeah, 100%.
we'll see what happens, especially with Champions League at play. But speaking of Champions League, Paul, enough about the men. Let's talk about the women.
Yeah. So Barcelona Femení going up against Olympique Lyon, the women's team. in the Champions League final, Andy, and it was a cagey affair back and forth in the first half. Lyon actually put the ball in the net, but oh gosh, I forget her first name. Her last name is Heaps. I will find her first name, Lindsay Heaps, who plays for the U.S. internationally. She's had a very decorated career. She actually scored, but was offside on this ball played into the box that was headed that Katakoi for Barcelona saved, fell to Heaps. She put the ball in the back of the net, but was offside on that initial header. So the goal was called back. So 0-0 going into halftime. Lyon actually looked like the better team in the first half, but then the second half started and Barcelona started playing Barcelona ball, possessing the ball better, creating lots of opportunities, and the dam kind of broke in the 55th minute when Payor scores, and from there it was game on. Payor actually scored in the 69th minute as well, 14 minutes later to make it 2-0. And then Parayuelo, who came on in the second half, I believe. Don't quote me on that because no, she was in the game the whole time. Somebody else came on in the second half, but she had 2 goals in stoppage time in the 90th and 90 plus third minute. Parayuelo actually had 2 goals and assist, and so did Payor. So Payor actually gets the Woman of the Match award in a very interesting career for her because this was her 6th or 7th attempt at the Champions League, and this was her first win.
Wow.
So she was kind of on the wrong side of history going up to this point, and a little infamous for not converting in the big game because she is a striker and couldn't get her team over the line. But now with Barcelona, she wins her first ever Champions League, which was super awesome to see. Barcelona end up winning the quadruple this year, which is unbelievable.
Amazing.
Barcelona Femení is by far and away the best team in the world right now with how good they have been in recent history and how consistent they have been, producing talents, being the majority of the club that won the World Cup in 2023 as well, for that women's side. Yeah, just awesome to watch. And I'm going to talk a little bit, unless you have any other comments, Andy, on the game. I'd like to.
No, I think the only comment is, given who they were facing, I know Olympique Lyon has had
8.
that moniker of best women's team. I think they were one of the first ones to start like having a women's team, and they dominated because they invested in their women.
Yep.
And now Barca's doing the same. They're investing in, and this is what we're seeing. So anything to get more money into the women's side of the game, to highlight that, I think is great. So as long as this perpetuates that and gets more women involved and gets men getting their eyeballs to say, no, this game and the women's side is just as good, or it's a different, even if it's a different product, it's still a product worth investing in.
Exactly.
I'm here for it.
Absolutely. So I'll go into a little bit more of this, talking about Alexia Putellas when we get to Super Sub, Super Dud. But just really great to see. Great performance. Obviously, being a Barcelona fan, I'm a fan of all Barcelona sports: men's, women's, handball, futsal, basketball, all the Barcelona sports. So seeing success in any realm for Barcelona is great. But yeah, it was a really great game to watch, especially if you're a Barcelona fan. So very fun.
Amazing. Great year to be a Barca fan. That's definitely for sure. All right, now we're nearing the end of our podcast. We got the Super Subs and Super Duds. So Paul, I'll let you go Super Sub to Super Dud, and share with me your supers.
Sure. So I'm going to give my honorary mention Super Dud first, and that is Google saying that Paderborn won the Bundesliga. When you pull it up for
this is what happens when you rely on AI Google.
Yeah, exactly.
Your Gemini ain't crap.
Yeah. For a team that wasn't even in the Bundesliga this year, somehow they won the Bundesliga. It's just hilarious. But I think Super Sub and Super Dud is actually the same person. So Alexia Putellas wins the Champions League, wins a quadruple. And I find out yesterday she is actually deciding to call it quits with Barcelona. She's going to go to London City FC next year. Um, and Andy, this to me is pretty much on par with losing Messi.
Hmm.
And I'll explain why. So she born and raised in Barcelona, or the surrounding suburbs of Barcelona. Blaugrana at heart. Went to her first FC Barcelona game, I think at 6 years old, with her dad. Her dad was a huge fan. Her dad actually passed away, I think, when she was like 17, 18 years old. And has just been a steward of the club on the field, off the field, pushed really hard to get more eyeballs on the women's game through her play, through her just kind of, I guess the word I'm looking for is just kind of sharing of the game and bringing it to the international stage, bring it to the world, both for Barcelona and for Spain. But I just kind of want to read off some stats here, Andy. So she's been with the club for 14 years. She has played 507 official matches, logged over 37,000 minutes for the club, and scored 233 goals over that time. On top
Well,
of that, she also won the World Cup in 2023 with Spain. She won the Nations League in 2024 with Spain as well. And domestically with Spain, she won 10 league titles from 20, so 10 of 14 basically. She won 9 Spanish Cups, 6 Catalunya Cups, 4 Spanish Super Cups, and 4 Champions League titles. And by the way, it was 4 in the span of 6 years. So from 2020 to 2026. Just absolutely unbelievable. And she was in tears, gave a very emotional farewell message. At the end of the game, I think the huge bit of respect, and I don't remember who they were playing in their last game, but everybody from that team stayed on the field to give her like a farewell. Her teammates and the other team included, which I think is a great show of respect for her, but just a huge bummer to see her go. She said this in her farewell message that she wanted to go out when she was still feeling 100%. And I believe she's had 2 ACL tears in her career. It might have been one,
yikes.
but I'm pretty sure it was 2. Um, and the most recent one was only a few years ago. So she's come back from that. And I think she just kind of got to the point where she just didn't feel like physically she could give 100% for a full season again.
Mm.
So I think that was ultimately part of her decision on why she wanted to go. Going on a quadruple as well is unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, tip of the hat to her. I'm sad.
Yeah.
Anytime Barcelona lose a longtime steward of the club, somebody who loves the club more than I do, it's a sad day.
Yeah.
And just hat off to her. Thank you for everything that you did for this club. And thank you for everything you did for women's soccer as a whole. You've been a great steward of the sport, great ambassador for the sport. I wish you the best of luck on your next chapter. And I am fully confident that you will be back in a managerial sort of role in the future. Because I know that you bleed the blue and the red, the Blaugrana, as it were. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And we look forward to when you're back.
Well said. Because yeah, it's definitely not going to feel the same when once a legend leaves.
Yeah.
But that's just how much you know what they meant to that club. So let that not be understated of how much Alexia Putellas meant to Barcelona and what she does in terms of the story of what Barcelona is as a club there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
well said there, Paul. Um, I'll kind of go for mine. I'll start with Super Duds so we can end on a positive note. So my Super Dud is actually going to be actually I kind of enjoy his punditry or whatever his shtick is of Roy Keane. Um, Roy Keane has actually had, I want to say, this past ever since like Michael Carrick's appointment, he has gone more and more vocally, seemingly anti-United, which is
Interesting.
kind of strange because he's very close friends with, um, very close friends with, shoot, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So maybe that's something to do with it because I know he's very intensely loyal to his friends. But Roy Keane misquoted Bruno Fernandes in a quote, and Roy then went on to have his very not always open minded kind of opinion on what was said. Um, and turns out that what he had quoted, he misquoted. So he misremembered what he was saying. And basically, the gist of it was that kind of giving this impression that, Bruno Fernandes is just he's not trying to win the games, he's just trying to pad his stats for things. And he based it off a quote. And the quote, when it actually was read and when he referenced in that game, was the exact opposite. I think in the moment it was Bruno was saying, "No, I should have gone for the shot there as opposed to passing because that was the better opportunity for my team." Something to that effect. And so recently, Bruno Fernandes went on the Diary of a CEO podcast, which I was like, "Why is he on this podcast? Like, this is like a Diary of a CEO is like this like weird potential like gateway into manosphere kind of shit stuff podcast." But I think what happened was that like the guy who does the podcast of the Diary of a CEO, he's a Manchester United fan, so I think he pulled a string or two to get Bruno Fernandes to come in, and he ended up posing that question to Bruno, and Bruno's always going to share his thoughts. He's not going to, call a Piers Morgan thing and let Piers Morgan just say like, "Hey, what's on your mind?" And then, Cristiano Ronaldo just spat some crazy crap. Bruno Fernandes just like responded to the message of just saying, Roy's a legend at United. I wanted to talk to him about this. But the main thing that hurts me isn't his criticism. When he criticizes me, he's like, "I can take that. I know that's part of the game. Like, I welcome it." But it's when people, lie and make assumptions based on a lie.
Yep.
In response, Roy Keane posted I think it was actually like an AI generated image, I want to say, with the quote of donkeys. When donkeys talk, they think that they're lions, something to that effect.
What?
Yeah, it was very weird. You can look it up online, but I don't understand this vitriol Roy has against Bruno because nothing that Bruno has done, I think, to Roy Keane has warranted that. And I think it just puts everything more into perspective now that, like, when Roy Keane and Gary Neville were around, they weren't in the media critiquing players of their former club. I think you definitely had journalists, you definitely probably had former pundits saying things, but not to this level of a podcast that can generate bites like this. So I think it's just a really, really silly, really petty, and just kind of shows, how, although tone deaf you are, because if Bruno had reached out to talk to you, why aren't you picking up that phone, and talking? So, puts a little bit of perspective there. So he's my dud. He's my dud. I'd say then for the super sub, give it to Arsenal for winning the Premier League. So I will give them credit where credit is due. As much as it pains me and I don't like it,
Yeah.
they were the best team in the Premier League this year. So congrats to them. I'm also happy because one of my favorite podcasts in the World Cup is After the Whistle with Brendan Hunt, Chicago native and Arsenal fan. So he gets a little nice thing for Arsenal. And I saw one of his shows, absolutely adored it. It was The Movement You Need show. He is partnering up with Rebecca Lowe, who I think is honestly the best broadcaster for soccer that we have in the world. I'll say that because I think she's that dynamite. So they have a podcast that's going to be coming back. I'm really excited because I know it's going to be really enjoyable. It's going to be insightful. It's just going to be a great listen, and it'll make me feel good, even though that Italy is not in the World Cup. So I'm very, very happy for that. So that's my super sub that's coming in. And so with that, Paul, I think that kind of wraps us up. This hour-long podcast. Holy cow. But we will be back next week talking about Champions League and whatever happens in that aftermath, and kind of teasing what's going to happen for the World Cup.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll have much to talk about for that. But thanks for hanging with us, guys, for this end of season, club season podcast. I've been Andy. Paul's been Paul, and with that, I'm wishing you all a big old
bye.